Okay. Alright, I'm ready. Hello, welcome to the stream. This is Cycle Metal. Whoops, my bad. I haven't used this pop filter in a while and I forgot how loose it is. I'm probably gonna have to get a better one because this one's just not able to stay in place like it used to when I first got it anymore. But yeah, welcome to the stream. This is Cycle Metal. Hope you're having a good day, night, evening, whatever time it is that you're in right now. And yeah, let's get started. And let me make sure that the correct thing is being viewed. Hold on. What? There we go. Okay, so I've got several windows open in Krita right now because I wanted to show off different studies I've been doing and just different I want to call them experiments, just because I don't normally make certain kinds of works, but I just want to try it anyways. So let's get started. Let me minimize this. Well, never mind. No, I'm just moving to the side. Okay, so what you see right now is basically an attempt at making a 3-point perspective composition. And let me do that. There we go. So hold on, let me do this and then do that. I definitely need to get rid of some of these, but anyways, there we go. So for the most part, you can see that I drew my OC / avatar, Sha, SHA. I guess if you're curious about who this is or what this is. And essentially, I just remembered that. I mean, I just forgot that. I remember that I forgot about drawing the rest of the. Anyways, don't worry about it. I forgot something. I'll figure out. Right. So I was attempting to draw this OC, this little guy, and 3-point perspective, and for the most part I did pretty well as far as drawing it in 3-point perspective, but oh wait, hold on. Oh no, not chewing any of this stuff. Good thing I caught you. Sorry about that. Got a 4-legged little princess in my room right now. And I'm talking about you. I'll give you that look. Eyeballing me. Yeah. Bless you. Anyways, right, so I was drawing this character in 3-point perspective, did pretty well for the most part. However, I wanted to do a background to make the composition a little bit more interesting. Even though this started as a sketch and an attempt at 3-point perspective, I want to take it a little bit further. And essentially, for whatever reason, decided to make the character look like they're eating a hot dog. Kind of hard to see because I did not get rid of these lines underneath the hot dog, but that's okay. I'll do that later. Get from there, get from there, get from there, from there. Really? Oh. Oh. I don't like you sniffing the cards. Sorry. Trying to keep her from getting near the electrical cords. She's not the type to try to tear up stuff, but I'd never be too sure. Because even if she doesn't bite it, I'm afraid of her pulling on the cords and unplugging something. Anyways, right, so I want to draw a background around the character, and essentially, since the character was already looking like they were eating a hot dog, I decided, hey, what if they were at a food court in a mall? They're biting me, they're biting me. So let's see, where is that? Where are the rest of the lines? Hold on. There they are. Okay. So this jumble of mess that I uploaded back on my Twitter is the result of me attempting to draw a few bits of furniture. So this is supposed to be a table, just a regular table with a one-legged podium stand sort of structure. Over here towards the left. Over here and on the right bottom corner, this was supposed to be a table where there's a bunch of condiments, veggies, and other toppings for the hot dog that the characters attempt to eat, even though it doesn't have a mouth. But I didn't get to that part because there's something that I was trying to do up here on the top in the background, and that was I was trying to draw a railing as if the character was next to the edge of a upper floor courtyard in a food court of a mini mall. I mean, not a mini mall, but you know, a mall. And okay, she's fine. The problem with that is if I wanted to make sure that the railing was in perspective, that it would have to fall, all the railing lines or lines within the railing would have to basically move towards at least one of these 3 points. But I wanted to have the railings pretty much go from one edge of the canvas to the other end. So basically something like this. Actually, that's kind of hard to see. Let's grab a different color. Let's grab red. So basically, this is generally where I wanted the railing to be. And that's pretty much not going to be doable because what layer am I? Okay. I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter, but I mean, keep track of the layers that I'm using. There we go. So the reason why this doesn't work is because in order to keep things consistent with the with perspective, pretty much these horizontal lines need to at least be touching one of these vanishing points, and that's not going to really happen because in 3-point perspective drawing, horizontal and vertical lines don't really exist. They can to a certain extent, but generally speaking, unlike 1-point perspective where you can draw horizontal lines, and unlike 2-point perspective, oh, my bad, that's really bad. And unlike 2-point perspective drawing where you can draw vertical lines, in 3-point perspective drawing, you pretty much have this third point somewhere either above or below the horizon line, and all the rest of the lines come from this third vanishing point, and then basically the other two vanishing points on sitting on the horizon line are supposed to connect to whatever lines are coming from the third point. So that pretty much means that I had to learn the hard way that that was going to be fatally impossible. And I thought to myself, well, what's the solution then if I wanted to try doing this again in the future or something like it? Well, I pretty much looked up a video basically showing that if you want lines in 3-point perspective, and even 2-point perspective for that matter, to go on indefinitely, you would have to essentially have the vanishing points off the canvas. And what does that mean? Basically, if I were to use the assistant tools, let's see, let's do 2-point perspective because there is no 3-point perspective assistant tool right now in Krita. And let's change the color of this to red so it's easier to see. There we go. All right, so basically imagine this is my horizon line with 2 vanishing points, right? So notice that all these lines coming from these vanishing points that are off the canvas now go through the edges of the canvas, right? So this is still a 2-point perspective. So even if I had the vanishing points within the confines of the canvas itself, this would still work regardless. The lines would still go on indefinitely, so that's not a problem. But if I wanted to do 3-point perspective, I would essentially have to have the third vanishing point somewhere above or below the entire canvas. And this is kind of getting messy to show off, but basically this is the third vanishing point. Again, I can have it above or below the canvas. And in order to make these lines connect indefinitely, they essentially have to be off the canvas in order to do so. Let me demonstrate. Let's not use the assistant tools for this. Let's actually turn this stuff off too. There we go. Okay, so why is this line here? Hold on, something's not right. Never mind. No, that's supposed to be there, apparently. Okay. So basically, if I assume that the vanishing points are off the canvas, somewhere to the left here, and somewhere, hold on, somewhere to the left here, somewhere to the right here, this red line over here is a horizon line, and the vanishing point is somewhere below here, below the canvas, then essentially the lines that I draw go something like this. Oops. Okay. Now, why is this important? Well, if we take a look at the red triangle that I just made, assuming that I get rid of all this other stuff. Actually, you know what? Let me do this on a new layer. Okay. And if you can hear me yawning, I apologize for that. All right, so let's turn all this other stuff off. There we go. I might just delete all this other stuff too, because quite honestly, this isn't really helping. Not like I'm gonna save anything I do right now anyways. So this isn't really a tutorial on 3-point perspective. I'm just showing off that how you can make lines in 2-point, 3-point perspective look like they're going infinitely towards a vanishing point that you can't even tell exists within a composition, yet still makes sense because all the rest of the lines move towards the same direction as towards a vanishing point. They have to anyways. All right, so again, we got the vanishing points and these two directions. There's one down here. So normally and let me use a different color. Use black. So normally in 3-point perspective drawing, you'll see tutorials and examples showing that here's a horizon line. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, where it's at, up high in the composition, or I mean canvas, or below, down here. It honestly doesn't matter. Or smack dab in the middle. Here's a horizon line. Here are 2 vanishing points, and then the third vanishing point is going to be somewhere, excuse me, above or below the horizon line. Here's my third vanishing point. Now, this triangle that I'm drawing right now, this is basically showing off the sections in which you can draw. I mean, you can use these. Okay, these are the areas in which the vanishing points that you just made, these 3 vanishing points, will allow you to draw things in perspective. So basically you can draw stuff in this area here, this area here, and this area here. Okay. So these 4 areas, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4 are where you can use these 3 points, vanishing points, to draw whatever you want. Cityscapes, objects, furniture, whatever. Ugh, man. Must be because I had lunch or something. That's probably why I'm yawning so much. Anyways. The fact is that you could probably tell just by looking at this, but if you were to draw something within this square, I mean, sorry, in this triangle, on triangle, I mean, space 2 right here, basically you cannot make the object move past this corner right here where the vanishing point is, this corner right here, or this corner. Why? Because essentially the vanishing points, the lines that you draw connecting them, pretty much look, the logic doesn't really work. So if I do something like this, you're just going to be drawing a bunch of pyramids and triangles like that. Whereas over here in space 1, for example, if I want to draw a box, I can still do that. Oops. Actually, that works. Come on. Go. And there's my box for the most part. Oops, actually no, that's not it. Go. Come on. There we go. So here's my box. Okay, so pretty much if I want to draw parallel lines or a parallel like structure, for example, handrails for a ledge or, you know, a stairwell or something like that, you simply can't draw horizontal lines in 2-point perspective drawing, because as you can see, these horizontal lines don't connect to any of these vanishing points at all. The same almost applies to vertical lines, except that if you are drawing a vertical line, it has to come from the third vanishing point, and even then you can only draw one. If I draw a vertical line here, this vertical line does not connect to any of the vanishing points if we follow the rules of 3-point perspective drawing. All right, so how would I draw a railing somewhere up here then in order to make a background where such a thing exists? And that is to, again, take this whole thing and move the vanishing points spaced out. And there we have it. So now if I want to draw... Oh wait, hold on. I'm gonna have to make it even bigger than that. There we go. So now if I want to draw railings, right? And if I want the railings to look like they're going this way, then I would essentially have to... Oh, excuse me. Do something like this. Not that. They're not parallel because, again, it's perspective drawing, but they'll look close to being parallel. Come on. This is hard because this cursor is small. There we go. So here we have two lines in perspective. Perspective wise, they're not it's accurate, right? They look like they follow or they're moving towards a single point. So the space between these two lines, it's getting smaller, hold on. And smaller, 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 and so on. But if this was not in perspective drawing, and if we were to look at this, oh, excuse me, as a plane, then the lines would look like this. They would look parallel. This is kind of hard to explain without showing a concrete, like, finished example of a drawing. But the reason why I'm not showing a specific drawing right now is because, or an example made by someone else, because I don't want to get in trouble. But more importantly, though, it's really just, it comes down to the concept of infinity, really. That's really difficult to grasp. So basically, this is still in these two lines right here, coming from this direction, going down in this direction. These are still in perspective, right? It's following the rules of perspective drawing. So this is correct. It looks correct, but just by looking at this, at these two lines alone, and let's get rid of this third one. There we go. So if we were just to look at these two lines alone, without you knowing it in advance that this is a 3-point perspective draw, these two lines were made in 3-point perspective. Without that context, you would have no idea why these two lines are moving away from each other at the further down to go in this direction, bottom right of the canvas. And if we were to say treat this like an actual railing, or say like a stairwell, there we go. And then erase the rest of this. Oops. So now we have a stairwell going in a similar direction to this line, but these two objects, the railing, and let's make it more obvious that's a railing. There we go. Make it look more solid. So it's going in a similar direction to the stairs, right? But if this was not in 3-point perspective and instead was in 1-point perspective, essentially this is the direction that you would see from a side view of the stairwell. That's basically what the railing would look like compared to the direction of the stairwell. So the stairwell and the railing is going in the same exact direction. If we look at it in 1-point perspective, something like this. Because in 1-point perspective, or not even in 1-point perspective, if we don't look at this in perspective at all and only look at this from the side view, these two objects, right, the stairwell and the railing, are going in the same exact direction. They're going in parallel. The only reason why it doesn't look like that here in 3-point perspective is because, of course, the vanishing point is all the way off the canvas. It's somewhere in this direction, but it does exist, and that's what's important about this. And this is also important for when I would, if I wanted to, I can take reference images of big, large rooms or big open spaces outside where you see geometric structures like stairwells, fountains, walls, columns, etc., etc. And being in, technically they're in parallel or perpendicular to other structures or objects. And in this case, it's a hand railing with a stairwell, but it could be a lot of other things too. It could be a bunch of boxes stacked on top of each other. Anyways, that's what I learned about how to go about drawing something like a handrail, make it look like it's going in infinitely off the canvas in 3-point perspective, or even 2-point perspective for that matter. But again, though, the reason why it doesn't work, or why I can't do that in my current sketch right now, my current composition, is because the 3 vanishing points are inside the canvas, so they're within these borders or the edges of the canvas, and because of that, I obviously can't make the lines go infinitely. That's just not possible. And this doesn't just apply to the area inside the triangle either. This also applies to the area outside of it. So if I were to draw a I don't know, like a street road, right? Some sort of road going infinitely in, whoops, in this direction, right? Then I need to have the lines coming from this particular vanishing point all the way at the top left. But you can probably tell that this is still not going to work because, let me use red. There we go. There we go. That's just gonna have to do for now. See if I can backspace. I mean, undo a little bit more. I cannot for some reason. Why is that line there? Is that a 3-point perspective one? I mean, sorry, 2-point. No, that's the infinite ruler. Okay, that's why. And again, I'm gonna have to delete all these out of the way. Oh. There we go. All right, so imagine the road basically coming from this vanishing point, moving infinitely in this direction to the bottom left corner. So if I want the road to look like it's going infinitely off the canvas on both sides, that's not going to work because the stopping point is over here at this vanishing point, right? The vanishing point is still within the inside the canvas itself. So how do we fix this? Well, we just simply move the vanishing point off the canvas somewhere beyond this corner, right? And now try to draw 2 lines like this. These 2 lines are still converging, right? They're getting closer in this direction, or on this part of the canvas. So there's a vanishing point somewhere in this direction, but because the vanishing point is off the canvas, it means that these 2 lines look like they're going infinitely, these 2 edges of the road. So that's just what it comes down to. Basically, the point is that if you're doing perspective drawing, you don't have to make the vanishing points. you don't have to put them inside the canvas. You can put them outside the canvas. However far away you want the vanishing point to be, and you can still make a perspective drawing. You can make the lines look like they're converging, meeting at a vanishing point. Again, it's not going to be obvious, especially the further away the vanishing points are from the canvas, but nonetheless though, the objects, characters, whatever you're drawing in the perspective drawing will still be following the rules of perspective drawing. It'll just make sense. Basically, it'll look logical. So that's what I learned with this study, and I'm going to continue trying to finish it, but I'll do that later. No. So I did some sketches with my OC again, just doing different poses and orientations of the different limbs, especially the head, right? And even trying to do something like this, where I'm drawing the character moving down as if they're falling, or something of that nature, or flying downward. Drawing the head of the character, but rotated 90 degrees. A 3/4 drawing, but it looks like the rest of the body is facing in this direction. So either this guy is lying on the ground, right, or they're flying in the air and flying in this direction. And here we have the character basically tilting her head up in profile view. And this one's a lot easier to set up. Basically, you just draw the head normally, as well as the rest of the body in profile, and then just rotate the head a few degrees up. I think I did this 22.5 or 45 degrees, and that's it. Now if I was drawing an actual like person or human like character, then that would be a little bit more difficult, but only slightly, because you have to worry about muscles also being aligned to the bones, like the skull rotating like that. But in this case though, my character is really simple, and that's what I made sure to take note of when I made my recent tweet, is that this character that I made, this OC, is literally just a means of hold on. There, it's going down. No, there, it's going down. Being sabotaged. Right back. It looks like we're back. Nope, never mind, we're not back. All right, hold on. We good? Says excellent condition connection, but the bit rate looks really low. All right, whatever. I'm just gonna continue on. Right, so because basically my character is box for the most part, this character is teaching me or making me learn how to draw in perspective, which is good, because if I want to set up really cool poses and compositions and learn foreshortening and all that, then it really helps to understand how perspective works, because perspective is involved with all that. So this is the bottom of the character. Let's see, I wanted to do like a little ball bearing, or not ball bearing, but a spherical ball wheel, spherical wheel on a bomb, but I kind of just scrapped that idea. I just like the idea that basically this character, this robot, has to be able to fly using a jetpack to move around. Otherwise, it can only use its arms to basically move like a bird along the ground. Frame rate's going low again. Bring it back. We back. Yeah, it looks like we're back. Frame rate's going back up again. Just waiting on YouTube to connect. Because I know if I look back at the VOD, I'm just going to hear a bunch of choppy sounds, and I hate it when that happens because, for the most part, I do watch these VODs, you know, immediately after the stream is over, then I watch it again a few days afterwards, and then sometimes I'll check back within a month or two. So I like to keep my stuff preserved as well as possible. Anyways, let's move on. So again, drawing the head of my OC here, original character, just rotated not only 90 degrees downward or clockwise, but also drawing the back of the head as well. So this is the front, right here as well, and this is the back. Anyways, here's something else that I was trying to do as well. That was a little more complicated. Basically, drawing the head rotating as the rest of the body is moving in a diagonal direction. Again, because these are just sketches and I wasn't using perspective. I wasn't using vanishing points to make this. It obviously doesn't work because the lines would look more like this. Oops. It looks something like this instead. For the body and the head. But anyways, nonetheless though, it still looks pretty decent for a good for a first attempt. Nope. All right. So I want to try drawing emotions, especially with a monocular. I assume that's the term for it. One-eyed character. This isn't really an eye, it's more like a camera lens, but nonetheless I treat it like an eyeball. Right, so I was trying to make this character look like they're angry. Here's the like little thumbnail sketch. I just copied it over, or not copied over, but I drew over it using my inking brush and then moved it to the right. And I tried to play with the direction and concavity, the concavity of the planes. So this top plane right here of the head, kind of dent it downward in the same direction or same concavity as the eye, just to emphasize how upset the character looks. And I wanted to do it on the bottom as well. Oops. Down here, if I can do this right. There we go. But I didn't know if that, to me, it just didn't look really, to me, it looked awkward to draw it like this, because then you have to worry about all these other lines, trying to match the concavity, and then it just looks messy overall, and then it stops looking like a robot and starts looking more like a blob of Play-Doh that someone just smashed their fist into. So I attempted to draw emotions again, this time not with anger, but with sadness. What's going on? My drawing tablet pen. Oh, I see what happened. There we go. So this is the emotion I was trying to go for. Something like this, just, you know, sadness, depression. So I drew the character in a calm calm state, no emotions at all, content with life. And then here we go. Here in a second. Drawing of the character's head. I was conflicted on how to go about showing us off with one eye as far as the concavity of the eye, burrowing down. So when it comes to how people's eyes behave when they emote or when they have or convey emotions, usually this is basically what you'll see on someone's face who recently found out that their favorite sports team just lost the recent playoffs or something like that. I don't know, I don't watch sports. Something like this, right? And then animators and comic artists and illustrators in general, basically arts in general, will do this with the eyelids as well. So the eyelid pretty much matches the same direction as the eyebrows, right? But that's kind of hard to do with one eye. Some artists will do this teardrop-esque shape, something like this. But then if they add a unibrow, they would also do something like that. And overall, it's just really, it's a lot more difficult to show emotions with just one eye. So I decided to just make it a little bit easier and just do one direction instead of two. So this is two directions right here. And this right here, this eye, only has one direction. And that's what I did to simplify things. Now, instead of making the edges of the head change, right, to match the shape of the eye with this concave line, I instead took the other features of the head of this character, the antennas here, oops, and the microphones on the sides of its head, and essentially drooped them low. So the reason why I got this idea to do it this way is because, or how I got this idea is by taking a look at how animals depict emotions, and you'll pretty much see, for example, dogs, they'll droop their ears. So let's pretend that this is a dog. Actually, let's move it this way. They'll droop their ears downward like this when they're sad or, depressed or something like that. And then they'll lower their tails as well. So when they're happy, they'll have their tails wagging like this. and basically pointing up, moving against gravity. But when they're sad, they have their tails drooping low, or basically allowing gravity to just pull it downward. And then there's other ways to show motions as well on other parts of the body, but on the head specifically, that's pretty much my thought process for how to have these other facial features, let's just call it that, or other parts of the robot's head, to get the point across that's sad. Now, how did I get these three heads to stay proportionally correct? And what do I mean by that? So to make things easier, basically what I did is I drew this first head, right? Idle, emotion, right? Calm, emotion. I just copied and pasted it, moved the second or move the copied version to the right here, and I just changed some of the features to basically move downward in this direction. But if I were to use the guides, hold on. Well, you can see all the crazy numbers of guides that I was using, but all these guides basically help me make sure that the different parts of the face are not only proportionally correct, but they also are correct in terms of how far away they are from other parts of the head in this case, so that it makes it easier to tell what direction the other parts are moving. So even though technically the antennas are curving in, let's just get rid of this real quick. There we go, and then hide it. There we go. Even though the antennas are moving in a diagonal direction, technically speaking, they're still moving down. Right, it's still pointing downward for the most part. Same goes for the mic handles on the sides of its head. In its idle state, you can't see the mic handles because they're essentially completely horizontal or 0 degrees in mathematical. If we were to talk about this mathematically, geometrically. So essentially the mic stands would basically look like this. But as the mic handle lowers, right, it's going to obviously the bottom of the handle especially is going to be below the bottom edge of the head, right? Same here too. So I did a 3/4 view of this head right here, and to make this easier to do, what I did is I took a rectangle and essentially made sure that it was parallel. These lines anyways, the horizontal lines, were parallel to a previous head. And this is how you make a character reference sheet when you want to make an animation and you want to show other developers of an animation. If you're working in an animation studio, or if you're working with a team of other content creators or whatever, other artists, etc. This is how you make a reference sheet. You just simply make sure that the other orientations of the body or head or whatever of the character are following the same exact oops, proportions as the, or alignments, I should say, they're aligned to this basic front view of the character. So if I zoom out, oops, this is all in alignment. So this head is not any taller at all. It's the same exact height as these other two ones. It's just rotated towards the right at a 3/4 angle. All right, and this applies to the top of the head as well. And let me use the line tool to make this easier. And you might be asking, well, how do you make sure that these features of the character's body and head and all that are aligned correctly to make the character reference sheet? In Krita, I don't know about other drawing programs, but in Krita, you can't see it right now, but under the drop down menu for the view category, right up here, let me make this full screen so I can tell I'm doing this right. So up here in view, scroll down to lock guide and show guides. So I'm going to hit show guides, and there they are. So that's just to show the guides, right? And if I wanted to, make a new horizontal or vertical guide on the canvas, all I gotta do is go to the rulers above or next to the canvas. So I click on this. I want to make a horizontal guide. Click and drag downward. You gotta make sure that you don't have guides locked though. So uncheck that. There we go. Now I've made another horizontal guide or y-axis guide, and then I can move it wherever I want to. I can do the same thing for the vertical x-axis as well. You can drag it off the canvas to basically remove it, but you can also just simply go back to view and then click on show guides and then make them disappear. But one thing to note is that if you don't click on lock guides again, or have the box checked under lock guides, then when you go back to your brush tool and start drawing again, the cursor will do this annoying thing where it'll think that you're trying to move one of the guides around like this when you're not trying to. You're just trying to draw a line through the guides. But of course, you know, software doesn't know that. So to make it easier for yourself, I just put a hotkey or lock guides, and then I just press it, and there we go. Now I can use the brush tool without having to worry about moving the guides. And I'm going to have to do what's it called on OBS, screen capture, in order to show the drop down menu. Let me see if I can actually do that real quick. Hold on, let me make this, let me make Krita full screen first. That's if I can. I don't know if I can though. I remember in past versions that there was an option to do that. Oh, here we go. Full screen mode. There we go. Now if I go to OBS and do window capture, I believe. Yeah. Window capture. That's the window I want. Oh, never mind. Never mind, that's not gonna work. Okay, I'm trying not to show off my toolbar, or taskbar, I should say. But unfortunately, it does show it, so that's alright. I'll just have to edit that later. Hold on. I'm trying to think how it's gonna do this. You know what? I'll mess with this later. I'm wasting time with this right now. That's okay. Let's go back to window, or not window, view, full screen mode, and then there we go. Cool. Back to OBS. All right, we're good. Okay, so that's how I learned how to make this quasi pseudo reference sheet. And I'm not done with this either. I want to do a profile view of these heads as well later on. Just don't want to do it now. There we go. All right, so we're done with this one. Oh, I think that's all of them. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. I guess I'll show off some of the other sketches I've been doing lately. Here's one where basically I was trying to draw a squatting pose. What this sketch, but it just looks really bad anatomically wise. The muscles don't really line up very well, in my opinion. And on top of that, the limbs don't seem to align very well either. So, for the most part, I just scrapped this for now. And I'll just make a reference image in the future and try to draw this again. Basically, I try to do this without a reference, and you can see that it just doesn't make any sense as far as the alignment goes of the limbs. So the hips themselves, the part of the quads should be more over here. Should be over here instead. And on top of that, it doesn't really look like the head is overlapping with the chest, which is which is supposed to happen. Like, it's supposed to basically look something more like this. As the body rotates downward, or in this case, well, yeah, the torso is still rotating downward as the character here is hinging their hips. So that was kind of a fail. Here's another sketch I was doing where basically I was just bored, wanting to do something related to emotions and such, while also trying to figure out how to draw different designs of hair and such, and this pretty much is a result of that. Unlike PewDiePie, I don't really get obsessed with the portrait style of drawing characters or people. And what I mean by that is, if you take a look at any kind of portrait artist or a portrait painter, where they just draw someone usually sitting or standing, and the painter essentially just draws them sitting or standing in that pose for several hours straight. Something like this. That's so bad. Come on. Something like this. This is not accurate as far as proportions go, but you get the idea. And then the actual portrait, or the canvas itself that they're using, the physical canvas, is basically portrait. It's orientated in a portrait manner, right? It's basically facing tall wise, or you know, tall. Whereas with the landscape painting, you have it orientated this way so that you can show off more of the horizon, you know, etc., etc. And you see a lot of artists that draw anime doing something similar when they're drawing characters, or fan art of characters, or their own original characters, or even VTuber designs and so on. They usually just draw them in a similar way like that. And PewDiePie, for the most part, if you check out his recent video on his progress of him learning to draw, he just mostly just draws a bunch of anime girls in that portrait style, portrait painter style. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when people complain, especially on 4chan, actually, let me do this in green. When people on 4chan, oh, that's bad. Let's do this brush. There we go. On 4chan, especially on the IC threads, complain about the Pewdster learn to draw, and learn to draw really fast, as well as learn to draw really well. What they don't talk about is the fact that PewDiePie is literally just drawing. He's learning how to draw anime girls either in a 3/4 standing position like this, or sometimes you'll see in a sketchbook that shows off in the video, the anime girls are facing away from the viewer, but their heads are rotating to look at the viewer that's behind them. Something like this. So the torso is facing in this direction, whoops, away from the viewer, but their heads are facing towards the viewer. You'll also notice that in a lot of those anime girls that he draws, it's usually just the same hairstyle with the same facial features. And I think that's mostly because he admitted to drawing using his wife as a reference to some of those sketches. So I assume that he just mostly tries to draw his wife in an anime like style, or if he doesn't use his wife for all as the only reference he uses for those sketches. I'm pretty sure right now he only knows how to draw only a few hairstyles. Something like this. Something like that, you know, or something like this. Hold on. And that's it, really. He's just learning literally how to draw only a few things. Like a few hairstyles, a few poses, and just drawing the same facial features, the same shape of the eyes, something like this. Not exactly, but he'll draw the same, not this one. He'll draw the same design or same shape of an eye, and just do that over and over and over again with all of his sketches. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when I see people getting upset about him doing it, or rather about the progress he's made as far as learning how to draw this stuff, how fast he is at learning how to draw this stuff, and the fact that when he first started to learn to draw in his first drawing, in his first video about this topic, where he says that he only spends 10 minutes a day, and he showed off his progress. People pretty much had were just going crazy, right? It's just seething, molding, whatever words you want to use. They were just upset about that fact. And then of course you got people on Icy right here, the Icy art threads, or critique threads on 4chan, basically complaining about how, oh, well, I've been drawing for, you know, 10 plus years, right? 10 plus years, and my art doesn't look anything like that. You know, I still look like a beginner and all that. And, you know, just more and more like complaints and comparisons between what they did, what they're able to do right now compared to what PewDiePie is able to do currently, and this and this and that. And people just don't bring up the fact that if you do the same thing over and over and over again with little to no variety whatsoever, of course you're going to learn to do that one thing well, efficiently, or effectively pretty quickly. You know, and that's what a lot of people don't seem to bring up. All they see is him drawing these pretty looking anime girls with, you know, pretty good anatomy and proportions and this and that, and they get upset over that. Not just about the fact that it looks good, but also the fact that it didn't take him a long time to be able to do that, nor did he have to use several different resources, like a bunch of books on how to draw, like the Loomis method, how to have fun with the pencil, blah blah blah. You know, I don't know if he mentions this in his video, but he never, as far as I know, he does. No one's ever said that he mentions things like Loomis. He definitely doesn't talk about perspective. He doesn't talk about rendering. In his second video specifically, he talks about coloring, but does he understand color theory? And my answer to, my opinion on that is he probably doesn't understand all aspects of color theory right now anyways. He just knows like the basics, you know, the different categories of color, how to pick and choose which different colors to use for different moods and things of that nature. But as far as the actual effects of different colors and how shades and tints work with different colors and saturation, saturation and opacity and things, this and that relate to color theory. I don't think he understands all that yet. So as far as I know, no one's, he doesn't seem to be using books on learn to draw. He doesn't seem to be using videos either. The only thing that I've noticed him talking about as far as where he's getting his knowledge of how to draw from is basically advice from, you know, other artists, whether it be friends, family, you know, whatever. Hold on. If I can spell correctly, friends, family, etc. So for the most part, he just talks to a few people. They tell him, hey, use references if you want to learn how to draw better. He does that, and he only spends a few minutes a day, at first anyways, to learn to draw. Does that consistently for a month or so, or at least a few weeks. And he makes his first video, second video. He says that he's been spending more than 10 minutes a day drawing, just because he's been not only enjoying it more, but I think also because he's getting more competent at drawing. So he's able to basically go from construction, right, constructing the face and torso, because that's, you know, pretty much the most of the body that he draws anyways. Construction, not constructing, construction. So he already knows how to go, you know, do this face pretty quickly now. Now he's moving on to color theory. He might look into perspective. It might look into value and rendering, or, you know, shading, and this and that. So people don't mention that either when they're talking about PewDiePie. Honestly, I should just leave this up. There we go. And thus they assume that, I mean, you see some threads on 4chan saying that, well, of course PewDiePie is able to learn how to draw this well and such. He doesn't work, he doesn't do a 9 to 5, so therefore he's got all the time in the world and money to learn to draw pretty well. He can get the best resources, best art materials, and pretty much just do this all day and such. And it's like, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I mean, sure, he does have a few advantages here and there, but ultimately though, he's not wrong about literally just spending 10 minutes or more, just spending a certain amount of time of a day, not necessarily every day, but consistently, right? Say, for example, if a person wanted to do something similar to what he's doing, but they don't have every day to draw, right? If they don't have 10 minutes in a day to draw, just do something similar, 5 minutes, or if you have more time but less days to consistently draw, you know, let's do like 20 minutes for 3 days out of the whole week. You know, something like that. Then a person who wants to improve not just drawing but any skill really, who wants to get better at doing something, if they just devote a small amount of time, however much time they can anyways, and just to doing that one thing, that one activity, or studying that one activity or skill, and just doing that on a consistent schedule. And again, you don't have to do something daily, right? That's actually not very realistic or helpful for a lot of people, because the brain actually does need time, does need a break in order to help better retain information, new information, especially when it comes to developing a skill and studying. As long as you're doing something consistently throughout the week, every week, then of course a person is just going to get better at it, you know. And I find it funny that people complain about this, because in grade school specifically, you have children, young students, basically doing this or practicing this method of learning every time they go to school, every week. Now, the topic in which you're developing, or that they're using this method of learning, right, will be different. One week they'll go over, you know, the alphabet. The next week they'll go over the, you know, number system, numerical system, etc., etc. But they'll practice how to write letters, write numbers, compute those numbers. 1 + 2 = 3, and then join these letters into words. So these 4 letters, BACK, form the word back, etc., etc. And you'll see them doing this stuff in their homework, where they're basically doing a bunch of math problems, a bunch of writing prompts, right? Where they're having to write papers, you know, essays, paragraphs, etc. And they're doing this not once a week, not once a week, not once a week, not twice, but usually 3 or more times. 3+. Now, each student is going to take more time than others to do the same activity. Some will take less, right? And that's just a matter of how competent each student is at that particular skill or topic of study. But nonetheless, though, if adults, especially a lot of adults on 4chan for that matter, will just apply the same method of learning to drawing, to coding, to, you know, bodybuilding, etc., etc., then they're going to get better. They're going to get as good as all these other people like PewDiePie at drawing, or, you know, whoever else at some other skill. But not to be mean about this, but I will say this though. I've been on the 4chan IC threads, artwork critique threads, long enough to know that not everyone does this, but a lot of people tend to complain more than actually practice their skill. Put in the work and time into it. And when I say put in the work and time, I don't mean putting a Herculean amount of effort into doing something as often as you breathe. I don't mean that. You don't have to go that far. No one's saying that. But you got the opposite of that happening, the other extreme of the spectrum, where, and let me do this because I'm running out of space. You have people basically, you have lazy on one end of the spectrum, and you have let's say workaholic on the other workaholic. On the other end of the spectrum. Right? And most people, sorry, a lot of people, not most, a lot of people on these 4chan threads, they sit somewhere over here on this end of the spectrum. They complain, they whine, they make threads about, you know, debating on with other anons about whether or not talent surpasses effort and knowledge. What else? Popularity is more important and practical than originality. You know, et cetera, right? You got all these people basically complaining about, you know, talent being a real measure of whether or not someone is able to be successful at something like being an artist. That you can only be successful as an artist or be a true artist if you're just doing fan art of the most popular intellectual properties, like, you know, anime or Marvel movies or whatever. And if you do something original, or if you're grinding it out and constantly using resources like books, videos, just basically tutorials. Then that's pretty much a waste of time. I kid you not, there's some anons that just straight up say that doing this somehow is a waste of time compared to having this. Basically, if you don't have these two, then if you don't have these two, then you're basically wasting your time. Waste of time. Which is really stupid to think this way, because if you applied the same logic to anything that you want to pursue, whether it be writing, filmmaking, coding, you know, exercise, etc. Any goal that you want to accomplish, if you don't have these two things, basically these people on these 4chan threads will basically tell you that it's just a waste of time. You're wasting your time. You're not going to make it, blah, blah, blah. They're just doom posting. And to that, my opinion on that is, if that's how you really feel, why do you have to waste your time trying to convince other people, especially on an anonymous board thread like 4chan of all places, that your perspective, right, this perspective right here, is somehow more valid and more truthful than this perspective, this mentality, right? If you're so black-pilled on making it as an artist or what it takes to be an artist, why are they having to waste their time trying to convince other people to believe the same things they believe in regards to this, if what they believe is true, right? And then often the response that you see people getting when they do this is post your work, or PYW for short. Post your work. This is a single response you'll see the most commonly being used in response to these Doom posters on these threads, like, and it makes sense. If a person who complains about not being able to make it because of these limitations or inabilities or etc, excuses really, then if they would just spend that much time, the same amount of time doing that as actually working on the skill that they want to develop, or if they've already developed the skill and they want to grow a following and such, if they just spend that same amount of time doing that instead, then they'd be more successful. How much more successful? That's really something that no one can really say for certain, right? But nonetheless, though, these Doom posters have 0% of success when they put 0% of the effort and time. And knowledge. Like, of course you're gonna fail. You know, of course these guys are gonna fail. If you just if you waste your time literally just doing nothing but complaining, looking at other successful people basically hustle and grind and, you know, learn how to do stuff better so they can get a return on investment for that, for the stuff that they're doing. You know, of course, you know, these Doom posters are going to be failures. Like, of course they're not going to make it because they're not making anything to show, and therefore we circle back to posting your work. If they don't have anything to post, a lot of times you'll see on these threads these other anons in response to them basically saying, well, I don't really care what you got to say, I don't really care about your complaints and such, because, you know, for the most part your criticisms aren't really that valid if you're not actually trying. And I'm pretty sure that these same anons that are, you know, responding with post your work, they are basically the same artists that you see on social media with, I wouldn't say huge followings, but they have a following. Some of them might have commissions, right? They're able to do freelance work for other content creators or businesses and so on. That's not to say that everyone that has this mentality of, you know, posting your work and just doing the work and learning and this and that, that's not to say that they're all successful. But they have a lot more to show in terms of following, missions, etc, and so on and so forth. They have a lot more to show than the Doom posters that straight up just sit around doing nothing but reading 4chan posts about how to go about this and that. Now, the people that are stuck in learning the very basics, the very fundamentals of drawing or whatever other skill that they're learning to do, and are basically they're struggling to overcome a hurdle or an obstacle or the same problem that, you know, they can't seem to figure out how to go about solving, That's different. That just means that they don't have enough knowledge, or not knowledge, but resources. They don't have enough resources. They don't have enough time to realize either their mistakes, or they don't realize the other resources that they can look at to learn more about what they're doing wrong, or what they have yet to do as far as their ability to convey a particular composition and such. You know, they're still putting in effort and time and such, so hence no one really gets upset with them if they complain that, oh well, I've been trying to learn, for example, foreshortening for, let's say, 8 months, and I still can't seem to draw the proportions of the body correctly when I'm, you know, drawing certain poses, like a person and a character pointing their finger at the viewer, right? That's different. In which case, post your work at this point is not really like a derogatory term or anything like that, or it's not really treated as an insult. It's more so a means of allowing better artists to not only criticize, or not criticize, critique their works and give constructive feedback, but also give feedback and advice and references to other resources. For these beginners to improve their current works or their future works. Of course, though, if the struggling beginners don't have any works to show, then obviously these better artists, intermediate or professional artists, can't really help them, right? Because they got nothing to work with. I forgot why exactly I started talking about all this, but I definitely do want to show something real quick before I end the stream. I wanted to show the feedback that I've recently gotten for some of my works. And I think it's important to show this stuff because, for the most part, it not only, one, proves the point I made in the past, where I think 4chan is a pretty good site to go to if you want to get more help with learning to draw and being an artist, but also oh, don't tell me I can't make this bigger. Come on, don't do this to me. There we go. So basically that's one of the pieces of feedback I've gotten, and this is in relation to, let me open it up. The feedback I got from this comment is for the most recent drawing I did for the Ninja Gaiden project. This one. So basically I posted this and the feedback threads, or constructive criticism threads, on 4chan, and basically this is the feedback I've gotten. Base value is too dark in my opinion, keep it up. So they're pretty much spot on with that. I thought so too. So in my next work, I'm going to make sure that I use brighter colors, not overly bright, but definitely more brighter than what I use in the third work. And then here's the other piece of advice I've gotten, or feedback rather. If I can click on this. Yeah, we're done with this. Oh, never mind. No, we're not. Okay. What? Alright, hold on. Open it again. There we go. So I'll make it bigger. So here's the third, the second piece of feedback that I've gotten for that piece. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm just going to read it out. So it says here, hatching is just to imply shading, form, direction, and movement. Lighting the line width is up to you, depending on what you're going for. And basically this sentence right here is in response to me asking the question of, how does my hatching look? Do I need to improve it? Do I need to put more space between the lines and such for in the hatched areas? For the most part, they just pretty much told me pretty much it looks fine. Just depends on what the space between the lines for hatching is. Just depends on the purpose of which the hatching is used for. Second sentence says, using texture brushes is good, but usually combining with hatching is a bad idea and creates an inconsistent look. Makes the viewer subconsciously think, why are some things shaded with textures and other things shaded with hatching? So the second question I had that they're asking with the sentence is, pretty much I asked the question of, should I combine hatching with texture brushes? Because if we go back to the other work, over here. Oh, okay, never mind. I'll just keep this open then. So if we look at the hatching here, you got hatching on the forms, right? And some parts of the background, but you also have the texture over here in the background. And there's no texture at all on the ninja or the leaves. And this is a problem that I personally thought existed in this work, because basically you had two different surfaces or two different methods of rendering forms, and it clashes with each other. Visually anyways, to me, it makes my eyes kind of think to myself, it makes my eyes look from the background to the foreground and then back to the background and so on and so forth. It doesn't look uniform. Third sentence says, you have some lighter greens on the leaves, so technically not all values are done by hatching in this piece. The shapes are not appealing, but they definitely read as leaves. So basically the third question I asked is, do the shapes in the background here, these ones, do they look like leaves? And for the most part they said, yes, they do look like leaves, but if I wanted to make sure that the shading is consistent, or rendering rather, use of adding value, then make sure that I don't put hatching on all the leaves, because I did for some of these here and some here and here, but for the rest though I did not, and thus it doesn't look very consistent. And the fourth sentence here says, I think you should work on drawing photos of people in different angles. Hatching, in my opinion, is just another style of rendering. Sorry, I should have zoomed a little bit more. You can't make up for a shaky foundation with good shading hatching, but keep it up. The hatching lines look good. And for the most part, they're pretty much right about this. I don't do a whole lot of figure work or figure studies. I don't draw people, basically. I just draw characters, and that's about it, really. And the reason why I do that is more so because I already did this stuff back in college when I was an art student. So I figured, well, I've already did this. I might as well not bother trying again. I mean, I might as well not bother doing this again, because I already know how to do this. And while that is true, it's not showing in my work, because it's been a very long time since I graduated from the art program, and I didn't bother practicing that knowledge that I got from the figure studies, the figure drawing and figure painting courses I took. So therefore, it's not really showing in the work at all. I mean, it's not all, but you know, it's hard to tell. Now, the guy that gave me this piece of feedback, they did use the word shaky foundation, or you know, shaky, and describing my ability to draw people, but he is right though, or they are right though. I would not have to ask so many questions in relation to this work if I just simply done more figure studies and just drew more people. If I learn how to render or shade actual people, their clothes or their skin, different muscle groups and this and that, if I learn how to do backgrounds as well, and so on and so forth, and apply things like foreshortening, perspective, color theory, and so on, then I wouldn't have to ask so many questions in this case. So but the fact is that I did some work, I posted it, right? Post your work, and I got feedback for it, and it was genuine feedback too. It wasn't like someone just trolling me and just, you know, basically dumping on my work. And I'm not gonna have a big ego about it either. I do know that I need to basically choose either textures or hatching. I do know that my knowledge in human anatomy, it's there, it's just that I don't remember it all because I haven't had a reason to practice that knowledge, or apply that knowledge rather, because I stopped, you know, being an artist like what, a year or two ago. And there's still a lot of other things that I did not learn while I was an art student. Color theory is one of the things that I wish I had learned how to learn more about. I did technically take a course for it, but the instructor basically didn't really teach me anything in relation to that, because I was the only student in that class, and they combined me with his design 1 students. So I essentially had to take the same course twice because he made me do the same assignments I already took in design 1, even though I signed up for a different course. I still got the credit anyways for that color theory course, but I didn't actually learn anything new. So I was a bit mad about that, but the guy was cool, so I wasn't that mad. The instructor anyways. What else? Anything else? Oh, and the ninja himself looks really flat despite the hatching, and the reason why is because despite his little kimono ninja getup is looking really baggy, there aren't any folds within the fabric itself at all, even though more than likely there should be. Also, the different indentations of the skin, like where the knuckles are on the hands, and you know, the mouth and the face mask, and maybe even some of the muscles and the shirt here, they're not really defined at all with implied lines. So therefore it looks flat in these areas, even though they're supposed to look a little more curved and bony. Anyways, I'm gonna have to look back in the VOD on why I started talking about all this, but my point is if you want to learn how to draw, I'm not going to say just draw. That's not really, it's not bad advice per se. It's just not as good. It's not as helpful as people think it is. But there's a reason why a lot of people say that. Telling people to just draw it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll get better just by the sole act of drawing more frequently alone. But the reason why so many people say that, just draw more, it's because a lot of people just don't do that. They don't draw hardly at all, or even if they do, they draw probably like once or twice out of the whole week, and they probably don't even finish their projects if they're working on something. So they don't have a good track record of showing completed works in their portfolio. They might not even be developing a portfolio. And that makes it even harder to ask other people, especially better artists or professional artists, for advice on how to improve, because these other artists don't have anything to critique. So I will say this. Instead of just saying draw or draw more, my advice would be get feedback. Get as much feedback as you can for your works. And whether that be from comments from other people on, I don't know, Pinterest or Instagram, or if you're posting your work on DeviantArt groups, if that's still a thing. Again, constructive feedback from those places. In my case, it's 4chan. I see threads. As long as you continue to get feedback, and if you're making work to have feedback, to ask for feedback for, then you're going to improve. You're going to learn how to draw better. Well, that's just the short and long of it. So that's my advice: is just continue seeking feedback. Continue. You can use other resources like how to draw books, how to, tutorial videos, this and that. I've used some of those as well. I mean, I said that earlier in the stream. I did that for the 3-point perspective sketch I was doing. But you don't want to be stuck in tutorial hell where all you're doing is just nothing but tutorials and you don't have any original projects to show people. You don't have any original ideas. You don't have any unique combinations of fundamentals used in a composition, so therefore you're just doing what everyone else is doing and you don't stand out, or you're just copying other artists' works, doing master copies, and that's it. That's all you're doing. You're not making anything original, so therefore you're not applying what you're learning from the masters to your own original ideas. And thus you're not really learning. You're not learning to draw at that point. You're just learning to copy other people's drawings. That's it. And that's a whole topic for another day, in regards to tracing to learn to draw, or copying other artists' works and this and that. We could talk about that some other time. But that's my best advice: is just get as much feedback as you can for your works and continue drawing as frequently as possible and as consistently as possible, so that you can have something to get feedback for. Anyways, that's about it. I don't think there's anything else I want to talk about. This is more of like a just chatting stream if I was doing this on Twitch. I don't think there's anything like that on YouTube, as far as I know. I mean, there's ASMR, but that's not what this is for. But this is just really just me just talking about the things that I've learned and my advice for anyone that wants to learn the same stuff as well. I don't have any particular resources to recommend people, just because, quite honestly, I learned the stuff that I'm showing off in my works now, and the stuff that I just showed in this stream. These are things that I remembered learning back when I was an art student, and we didn't use stuff like textbooks in those art classes or those drawing and painting classes. We pretty much had an instructor show us how to do something like painting or drawing, or and other art mediums, sculpting, making ceramics and stuff like that. They would literally just sit in the middle of the classroom, do something. We would, the students would watch them do it, and then they would just try to copy what they did. That helped for some struggled more than others because of that. But if the instructor was actually good at teaching, and you were lucky enough to have those instructors, they would either recommend you doing extra practice outside of class, offering you other resources, maybe giving you their own book on that particular subject or skill, you know, things like that, so that you can get extra help. Then you would get better at that particular project that you're working on. Anyways, so pretty much, I'm not saying that I know everything. I don't. I'm still learning new things about even the same fundamentals and skills that I learned back in art school. Every time that I do a project, but I'm glad that I have these fundamentals already learned, a lot of them anyways, not all of them, but a lot of them back in art school, because now I'm just refining and just making a specific workflow that I can use for my own projects. So I wouldn't say I'm beginner level in terms of drawing skills, but at the same time though, I don't think I'm a professional artist. I'm more like somewhere between beginner and intermediate. I'm not quite there yet as far as being on the space between intermediate and professional, but I know I'll get there eventually. So anyways, yeah, that's gonna have to be it for this stream. That's all I gotta say on this matter. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and end the stream now. Thanks for watching. I hope this stream helps someone. I hope this was educational in some way. Hope whoever watches this learned something. But yeah, anyways. Thanks for watching. This has been Psycho Metal, and until next time, peace.